good. Now everyone has to feel really bad about getting up to leave. Okay, so we are in a Show Me the Money track, and I was asked to give a little bit of a talk on accelerators and incubators, or accelerators specifically. The reason is I'm co-founder of Execution Labs, as I said before, and we have for the last few years been doing a lot of accelerator type activities. We've invested in a couple of dozen studios over the last few years, 5 or so in Europe, only 1 here in London so far, but that's not a mobile studio. It's a premium studio. We do invest all over the world. I thought I would first talk a little bit about the difference between an incubator and an accelerator, because I think it's confusing for people. It's even confusing for people in the industry who have been doing it. So incubators tend to be about creating an environment where you're nurturing a new company or a new studio. So providing the sunlight and the water and the soil for new sprouts to grow, and then surrounding them with the team and the resources they need. Versus accelerators tend to be about helping that budding studio grow very quickly, right? So that's the key difference. There are some mechanical differences. Typically, accelerators are cohort-based, and they're shorter, so typically 3 months, maybe you'll see some that are 6 months. And they bring in a group of people, group of studios, boom, they come in, they go out. And incubators tend to be more amorphous, so it can be, months and months and months. Also, accelerators tend to give you a little bit of money for a little bit of equity in your company or studio, versus incubators tend to have sort of larger stakes and they take large participation. So some accelerators that you may have heard of. Y Combinator is sort of the OG accelerator. They were the ones who sort of got the whole accelerator thing going. They're based in Silicon Valley, and then there's Techstars and 500 startups and all these other things. These are, I would call sort of general purpose tech accelerators, right? These are probably not for you. There are a handful of game accelerators that may be for you. So Execution Labs, based in Montreal, that's mine. I'm actually based in San Francisco, but most of our activities are in Montreal. We're an accelerator, or have been historically. We're now doing more sort of early stage investment. Game Founders, Cadre, they are an accelerator for sure. They used to be in Estonia. I think this year they're doing their next cohort in Malaysia. They're an accelerator. I put Stugan in case Tommy was in the room. I didn't want him to be pissed if I didn't include them. They're sort of, they're really interesting. It's sort of accelerator-like, but they don't take equities, more not-for-profit. They're doing some really cool stuff. There's Reactor in Washington State, but it's really hard to find pure sort of accelerators in the gaming space. At least ones that are active, and some have sort of come and gone. So they may be for you, and I'll talk about why they may be for you. So this is sort of the things I think you should be getting from an accelerator. You should be getting business coaching. I know that's a broad term, but basically you should be learning how to build and scale a business, right? A studio. It should not just be, this is how I ship this game, right? You want more than that. I called out specifically pitch practice, learning how to pitch, because as you may have seen a lot of people doing pitching for the first time as developers. This is not a skill they've established. It's not an innate skill in most human beings. You really have to learn and learn and learn. So we spent a lot of time on this because you'll need to get money. You should be getting an alumni network, a useful alumni network. So people who've gone through the accelerator before that you can call on for favors, advice, that kind of thing. You should get access to management's network, right? So when you come to Execution Labs, you should immediately know everyone I know. So that means everyone at Apple and Google and Amazon and any publisher or whatever. That's part of the deal. So whatever accelerator you're going to, you should know who those people know, right? Relevant mentors. This is something I'll dig in a bit, but the people who are actually helping you aside from management in the program, that's critically important. I'll come back to that. Money. You should be getting some amount of money. If they're taking equity, I'll talk about that in a second. And then access to more money. I know that may sound weird, but chances are the money you're getting from an accelerator is not going to get you where you need to go. But the people who run that accelerator should be able to plug you in to larger networks. I have an asterisk by mentors because it's easy to get fooled on this one. It's easy to say, hey, I'm starting an accelerator, and if you've been in the industry for a while, you can easily put up names of people you know and say, hey, do you want to be a mentor? I'll put you up on my website. that happens, it doesn't mean they're going to be actively involved, right? You need to be talking to the alumni, talking to the mentors themselves, seeing if they're actively involved in the program. So one of the reasons I said that generalist tech accelerators are probably not for you is because they fail at most of these. A couple of things they'll get right is business coaching. They can probably help you with that, like help you learn how to scale a business. They can provide some amount of money, $50,000, $100,000, something like that. But they fail with these other things because their alumni network is not going to be other game studios, right? They're going to be generalist tech startups. Their mentors are not going to be specialists in games, right? They're going to be general sort of tech startup folks. Management's network is not going to be the people that you need to know, right? So if you're looking for an accelerator, I find it really difficult to believe that you can go to a Y Combinator and have success as a game studio. One thing I feel really strongly about is that if someone is taking equity in your studio, they should be giving you money. Right? So there are accelerators who say, hey, we're going to give you some office space and whatever, and some introductions, and we're going to take 8% of your studio or whatever it is. I don't think that's a good deal. Also, fundamentally, I think that if an accelerator can't go out and raise money themselves, they're probably not going to be very good at helping you raise money, right? Because what you're going to need to do is go out and raise money from a publisher or VC or whatever after you leave the program. And if they haven't shown that capability, I don't think they're going to be very good helping you do the same thing. So when you're picking an accelerator, some things to look for. Don't talk to me if you're looking to join Execution Labs, because I'm going to say good things. Talk to other people, right? Specifically, talk to the people who've come and gone through Execution Labs, right? Game Founders, same thing. I'm sure Kadri would say all kinds of great things about Game Founders, but find Game Founders alumni and talk to them. They'll give you the real skinny on what's going on. Look at the list of alumni and figure out who's got funding, right? Because presumably one of the reasons you're going to an accelerator is because you want to get more funding for your project or your studio. See who's got publishing deals. See who's got VC deals. See who's got money from government programs, right? That's a key indicator of whether or not that accelerator is succeeding. And then ask those same people who write checks, ask them what their opinion is. Hey, what do you think about Game Founders? Hey, what do you think about Stugan? What do you think about Execution Labs, right? And those publishers and investors will probably have firm opinions. As you heard before, game investors tend to be pretty vocal and don't hold back too much. How many in the room are doing free-to-play games? So are there other ones doing premium games? Who's doing premium? Okay, so half the people are just spectators. Okay, so all right. There's a big caveat here, which is that I think free-to-play is really a tough fit with game accelerators. And to describe it, we use this notion of gap jumping. So on one side of a gap, we have our money. We give you $50,000. We used to give you $100,000 for a longer program, but here's our money, right? On the other side is somebody else's money. That's probably a publisher to help you to publish and market the game or add production funding. It could be a first party. It could be a VC, right? In the middle is the gap, right? So what we're doing is funding you here and trying to get you, accelerate you as fast as you can so you can get over this gap. The problem is right now with free-to-play, most publishers don't fund here, right? They want you to be here already. This is a new dynamic, relatively speaking, in gaming. Historically, publishers filled that gap by providing production funding, right? Now, most mobile free-to-play publishers want you to be on the other side of that gap in soft launch, showing good metrics, and then maybe they'll provide funding, which is terribly unfair. Particularly if you're a small studio or smallish, how do you fund that, right? So it's really tricky. We have tried to solve for that by partnering with publishers so that I mentioned that, historically we've been an accelerator and we still sort of are, but now we're doing more deals along the lines of, hey, you have a game, right? We'll give you some money, but only in the condition that we know we've already locked you in with a publisher who's going to take you after global launch. So we'll fund you during soft launch, help you do your user acquisition, help you do all these things, but then this other publisher whose business it is to do user acquisition is going to be there when you're done, right? We're trying to solve for that, but it's really hard. Frankly, it works better accelerators work better with premium because, we've done only one premium mobile game, and because premium mobile was hard for a whole lot of other reasons. We did one in the fall. A studio called Outer Minds released a game called PewDiePie, Legend of the Brofist. PewDiePie, it's PewDiePie. And I think this is a great example of how accelerators can be really useful. I mean, we are doing more premium games for PC and console right now, frankly, for some of the same reasons that this game worked. So they didn't need that much money, but what they did need, so they were really smart. They worked with PewDiePie, so they had this amazing marketing advantage. So don't do a premium game on mobile unless you have an amazing marketing advantage, pro tip. So, but what they did need is help with things that accelerators can help with. Things like user testing, things like UX UI, things like connections to Apple and Google and Amazon, negotiating contracts with someone like PewDiePie. Like, these are things that an accelerator can help with. And this is why I think premium is actually an easier route if you're looking at an accelerator. Because if you're doing a console or PC game, there are a lot of publishers who will fill that gap, right? Like, you can do that first part of the platform, and then they'll come in and provide production funding. It doesn't really exist. Very few people doing funding for free-to-play right now. So the choice of an accelerator is fairly nuanced. These are broad strokes, and I'm happy to have a conversation with anyone. After this, you can email me. I'll send you the slides for whatever they're worth, but we can also have a conversation if you have general questions about how accelerators work. Okay, thanks everybody. Do we have time for any questions?
Probably take one or two quickly.
Yeah, okay, one question, thank you.
Okay, so my question is, how early is too early? I mean, have a product, have a prototype, you haven't really assembled the team, so...
So the question is, how early is too early to apply to an accelerator? It depends on the accelerator. So in our case, we're very clear that you must have an established team and you must have a working prototype. I'm sure, I think it's pretty similar for game founders also. Stuga, I think you could just be like, I got an idea and I'm going to show up and go to this cabin in the summer. But I'm not sure everyone is a little different, but generally speaking, you should be able to go to the website and they should be pretty clear on what's needed. Most accelerators are not that interested in taking a brand new studio doing something for the first time. Right? It's not an incubator, it's an accelerator.
Okay, cool. Thanks for that.
Sure. Anything else? Oh, what? By all means.
I just wondered, with the sort of not funding free to play early, do you think that's going to change? Or if it isn't, do you think that's an issue that needs addressing?
I think it's not going to change anytime soon because currently there are a lot of people trying to do free to play games. And the publishers definitely have the advantage right now in terms of being able to cherry pick which free-to-play games are out there. And because the dynamic has changed, the notion of a soft launch where you can actually show metrics has really changed the dynamic versus with premium, you're always sort of taking a bet on the studio and their creative vision. Now it's much more, I don't have to take a bet on the studio and creative vision. I can do that, but actually I can test it based on what the market's actually telling me. So from a publisher's standpoint, why would you bet early when you can bet late? And the precedent's been set. So I don't see that going away anytime soon. Okay, sorry, we have time for one more? Yeah, one more, okay.
Hi Keith, it's Peter Fodor from Appagent. You have been talking about the soft launch important for publishers. Do you consider the budget for soft launch, which from my experience could be something between $10,000 to $20,000, a problem for indie developers?
Well, I mean, I think that's often part of the money that we put into a studio is going to be geared for soft launch. And one of the things we're good at, so we have a staff of experts that work full-time in Execution Labs. One of them is UA, right? So it's not just we're money. We have UX UI people, UA people, product people. Our UA team will help actually get your game into soft launch and help you get users and start measuring them in a statistically significant way. You should be able to get that from an accelerator, or you should sort of earmark part of your monies for that, because otherwise you're going to die in that gap, right? And the one thing I will mention just to close, and this is maybe getting into the weeds a bit, which is 10 or 20K should be sufficient to get you some baseline retention metrics, but you're never going to get close to what you need for your conversion metric, right? Because you just need so many more users to get that funnel if you're looking at 2 or 3% conversion. So we can talk more about that and maybe too detailed, but that's my general thoughts. I'm being told I have to shut up, so thanks everybody.